Hello, hello, hello. We are live.
Hey, Kiki.
Hello. Welcome back, our lovely viewers and those that are following us and those that are probably clicking in later. Welcome to Beyond the Sum of Our Parts. Today we gotta, like always, we try to dig deep into topics that, you know, help us and understand. This is my
Yeah.
lovely friend Jordan
Hello, hello.
and our very special guest Evie. How are you?
Good.
All
Thank
right.
you for having
Jordan,
me.
what is today's topic about?
Today we are going to be leaning into the topic of prescription for change, navigating healthcare as a person of color, where we're going to be discussing about the healthcare experiences of people of color, whether that's from the professional or personal aspects of it. We're going to be diving into all of this. So if you're out there in the audience and you have some commentary that you want to comment, feel free to send us a message, chime in, all the good stuff. Interactive. All right.
All the good stuff. All the good stuff. The tidbits, the snarty derisions, all of those things. I'd love to hear it.
I don't know what that last thing was, but yes. Okay. Um, so, with that being said, we're going to kick it off with our first question. What challenges have you faced when trying to access quality health care? Like, have you ever felt that your concerns or your symptoms were dismissed or downplayed by a healthcare provider because of your race or ethnicity? You
I'm
can
gonna
start.
start this. Okay. Well, I personally haven't gone through it myself, but I definitely have loved ones that are close by me that have and are experiencing it currently. Um, and it's a bad feeling. It's tragic, and then me being the person I am is even harder to experience that for my loved one, and I can't really do anything about it. 'Cause I'm not a
Right,
healthcare professional, but it's like you're going to seek some help for a problem and you can't get answers. So
right,
it's a challenge. It's hard.
right. So for them, it's them, is it a combination of them dismissing the symptoms, or is it just them not working hard enough to due diligence?
I think it's just, yeah, not doing the due diligence to figure out the root of the problem.
Right,
Um, it's a constant pain um, or issue that he's having, and it's going to the doctor, just getting prescribed pain pills and
right,
medicine, and that's not fixing the problem. It's just numbing the problem for a temporary fix.
right. And that's, I've experienced that a lot. When I was in the military, that was a big issue that we had in terms of medical care. Like, I don't know if it was just military wide or if it was just, where we were at the time, but same thing. We would go to the doctors. These are the symptoms we have, and everybody was given Advil. It didn't matter what it was, or ibuprofen. Didn't matter what it was, how bad it was, everybody got ibuprofen. If it was really bad, you got Motrin. Like, okay.
Yeah.
Um, so I definitely understand that experience. So how do you feel like your cultural background has influenced like your approach to healthcare? So having seen this happen with your loved ones, how do you feel like it makes you want to navigate the healthcare system?
Really, just to, I mean, it's the best thing I can say is like the worst thing is really like you wanting to find somebody, a person of color, to be the person to treat you because they'll
Right,
understand. They can relate. Whereas when you
right,
go to someone that is not a person of color and they're just dismissing you and they're just
right,
downplaying the symptoms, it's like the biggest thing is like, okay, well, let's find a black doctor. Let's find somebody who can
right,
relate. Um,
right.
and I mean that's the only thing that seems to be an answer that can get you your problem solved or anything like that.
Right. Right. I definitely understand that. So then with that, do you feel like going to another person of color would be and like, so even if they were in a regular hospital, if you were in a big hospital but your doctor was a person of color, you feel like that would automatically give you like a leg up or a,
I,
a
I would
higher
hope
level of
so.
care?
I would hope so.
Okay.
If anything, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it is true.
Right.
But you would hope it could be a little more, because at times, it's just the person who's inner, that type of person that they are as well. So sometimes it might not necessarily be that person of color. They might just be having a bad day and they don't want to treat you right just because they're,
Right.
not in that mind space to do that. So,
Right.
but that is the first option that we want to try to go to. That's for sure. But that doesn't
Right.
necessarily mean it's going to be the best option all the time either.
Right. So have you had experience like positive experiences with healthcare providers that were of a different color or ethnicity?
Me personally, yeah. I mean, I don't go to the doctor too often. Just get my annual checkups here and there. Um, but ever having an issue and getting some actual results, yes, I've had. I could say at least I've had one, where my, medical emergency wise, I had a condition way back when. Um, Even though it was a drastic solution, I had to have like brain surgery, but not brain surgery.
Mhm.
Um, that was really ultimately like the only option. We did try to find another route, a holistic route. Of course, the person was not a person of color, but it turned out to be the only and best route to go through,
Right.
and it helped out. It did the job that it was supposed to do, so
Okay.
it
So
worked
it
out.
wasn't, it's not all negative. There are
Yeah,
some positive experiences in there, but just recognizing that as a person of color, you would feel more comfortable having a person of color as your medical care provider.
most of the time, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Mike, did you have any chime in about things?
I would say honestly, as a person of I working in the medical field for the many times that I have, I'm gonna say not all kinfolk, not everybody's kinfolk. Even when we think we feel more comfortable with people that may look like us, not all of them have our best interests at hand because it becomes a cliquish mentality. And I'm
Mm,
not proud to say this, but I remember at times when I was in the medical field and I would see a person of color, and I'm like, "Yo, you got this. Your pain is. I know you're going through pain, but you're stronger. You can handle this." And that wasn't what they needed from me. A
mm,
pep talk on you, managing your pain because you're stronger. Because it's like, yo,
mm.
rather than basically treating them as a person
A
who's just in
person
pain,
in
I'm like,
pain.
yo,
Right.
you're a person of color. We've been through a lot. Toughen
Right.
up.
This is just something else you
Yeah,
can
Yeah.
work
yeah.
through.
And so, and it
You've
was
been you've been
in
through so much. Just take another thing.
Yeah, you just take another
Yeah,
L. And I was taken back by that thought process when I started to like see it done. And then I was like, yo, and I'm thinking to myself, and I was like, yo, why did this happen to a person? Why did I say that? Why did I think like that?
Mm-hmm.
And it was like you got caught up into the system, and
Right.
sometimes that's how we see ourselves. We're not aware that, it's a cliquish mentality. It's like you like take on the persona of the facility and the business mindset of those around you, and you basically lose
Right.
yourself a little bit. And it's not justifiable, but it's it's not, but we do it anyways, and that's just not okay.
Yeah. So then, as a medical professional, do you feel like there's generally a trust gap between patients of color and healthcare providers?
I would say a little bit, because once again, it is like I said, it is not always all of us that are into that, that do that. But then, what I'm saying, those of us that do care, we do try our best, and it is very sad. Like I remember taking care of a patient. Um, it was kind of difficult to hear, but for let's just say the patient came into the hospital. They went to the hospital multiple times, and they just kept on sending them away with ANSs. They were pregnant and stuff. They just kept on sending them away. And then finally they make it to my floor, and at the time it was like it's a critical unit floor, and patient's condition had extremely worsened, and so let's just say they lost a child.
Oh no.
Yeah, and rather than them basically take the time to understand that patient and do what they had to do to assess that patient, they just shooed them away with drugs and over the counter meds. And they came back multiple times. And it's like crazy thing is like we have records of people coming in. So it's like at some point you gotta say, hold on, hey,
Right.
maybe there's something really wrong with this person.
Right.
Maybe there's something that needs to be done. And unfortunately, nothing was done. And the person, again, like I said, ended up losing the kid and they ended up going brain dead.
Wow.
Oh
The
wow.
patient themselves went
Yeah,
brain dead.
yeah. And it was
Oh my
like,
gosh.
and it's like really bad though. And it's like, you see, and it's like, I'm pretty sure anybody in the medical field has worked out. We've all seen, heard things of that nature. And it's really sad to see that. And she was a person of color. And I feel like, had she not been one, they would have taken her things a lot more seriously rather than so drastic. And then the crazy thing is, so patient ends up being in the hospital for like several years, and
Oh wow.
I go back to visit this patient, and she's already brain dead. She's already lost a kid, and now for somehow, some way, she has a dislocated shoulder.
Hmm.
That's odd.
Yeah, and I'm just like, if they can't move, how did they dislocate their shoulder? And everyone says, I
Quality
don't
of
know.
care.
Uh,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's like everyone's like, I don't know, I don't know. How do you not know? I need answers. I mean, this is not my family member, but I'll be damned. You know what I mean? And it was just things like that I saw, and it was just like, yo, it was very disheartening. It was very disconcerting for me. While I'm not saying like in a broad spectrum, everybody doesn't care, everybody's negative, but it's that mentality of that people of color have a different pain tolerance. It's that mentality that people of color can take on things a lot different than other people. When in reality, is hurt, pain is pain, a condition is a condition. You need to treat the person for their conditions and not your assumptions.
Right.
And then some people still think that people with people with
You can do it.
yeah, people with a darker skin complexion can basically they need a thicker needle to basically put in IVs or to draw blood, and that's not the
Yeah.
case.
Yeah, because their
And some
skin is
people still
thicker.
think,
Uh-huh.
yeah, and some people still think like that, and that to me is it's not an okay thing to do at all. Point
Right.
blank. Period.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. That is
That's
really disheartening. Like to hear that
that.
person's experience, and that could have completely been prevented if somebody would have just said, "Hey, this person is here. There's obviously a need." Like,
Yeah.
but
Just taking the extra
Kimfa,
step to show care.
Hello,
yes, Kimfa, thank you for joining us today. How are you?
I'm well. How are you guys?
We're doing
Good.
well. We are talking about navigating healthcare as a person of color. And we were just talking about the challenges that we face, either personally or professionally, in terms of access to quality care as a person of color. So, Mike just shared his experience professionally seeing somebody not receive that care. Did you have anything you wanted to chime in?
Working in the medical field, I've witnessed it personally.
Mm,
So I worked in a nursing home before, and I realized that if a patient doesn't have family visiting them, they get mistreated.
yeah,
But if they see that there's a constant like family member coming in, they
and
make sure
accountability,
they
right?
are on their P's and Q's at all time. So whenever my people, like my family members and friends, go to the hospital, I am there because I don't want any type of like mistreatment. So
Right,
I always advise everybody just to make sure if your loved ones are in the hospital, make sure you check on them at all times and
right.
ask questions repeatedly.
So, as both of you, as medical professionals, have you experienced any biases or like stereotypes when caring or seeing other people care for patients? I know, Mike, you mentioned darker skin having thicker skin. Um, Are there any other biases or stereotypes you've noticed about different races or ethnicities in the medical field?
Okay.
Other than the from what I've experienced, other than the idea that people of color can need a thicker needle, is the only thing I'm like, yeah, that doesn't make any sense. No, but I will say that people's condition varies from person to person. Like, if you're a person that works with your hands and you're out in the field or you're out like in construction like that, those people have thicker skin. I'm not gonna lie. Like, you got to use a bigger needle for them, and you got to, because I've had some
Right.
patients when they done bit the needle on me and everything. I'm like, but they want
Right.
to, you know what I'm saying?
Calluses from work.
Yeah,
That
you
makes
know,
sense. Yeah.
in some cases it makes sense, right? Especially if if they ain't got a good arm vein, and I go through their hands, that hand area is just like straight turtle shell. It's hard to get through, but you know what I mean. Um, I would say what I've also noticed, like Kim said, it's the lack of family presence. If you're a person of color, the lack of that presence, the lack of people coming in to visit you and check up on you, will be
Mm,
more. People are more laxed in your care. They're not as attentive. They're not. They're not as caring as they should be.
mm,
They're gonna let you sit in your own poop for a couple of hours before they decide to help you out. They're
right.
going to basically probably not even give you a bath because they feel like they don't have time for it or they don't want to bother you. That's their excuse. But in actuality, a person can't move, a person can't speak for themselves. And you're going to let them go a whole day, 2 days, 3 weeks without even being taken a bath. Now, when I was working in the hospital, one of the people, my manager at the time, he was good about going over the notes and everybody's charting to see how many people were actually charting that they were giving people baths and how many people were, and she would call us out. She would call us out on it. It's like, how is this person on X amount of days being here and not giving a bath but one time in a 7 day period? It's like, oh, that's not okay. And
Was
so,
your manager a person of color?
no, no,
Okay. But
no.
she was still holding everybody accountable. That's good.
Yeah, she was holding everybody accountable for that, and the one thing I didn't like about it is that you would have people that feel like, oh, it's above their station to clean up a patient or to give a patient, like attentive care in that manner, and that was never okay with me. I mean, and it's very important that we anybody that's in the medical field, I'm pretty sure everybody, I'm not the only one because I've only been doing it for not as long, but I've seen people who's doing it for a very long time, and while some care and some do not, while some treat it as, it's a go-go, it's the adrenaline, it's an action seat in place, and other people are just very tentative and they care, and you know what I mean, it becomes an issue when those things are not being addressed properly.
Like one thing I realized though, I don't know if you guys already discussed this, is that some people like in the healthcare field seems like they think that African Americans, we can tolerate pain better, like better than other people. So
Mm-hmm.
when we're complaining, say we're in pain, some people think, oh no, you guys can take it, and that's not
Right.
accurate. That we're all human,
Right.
so we should be treated as such. If we are complaining about our pain management, take care of it. So that
Right.
part is really annoying.
And in most cases, they often will see a person as a drug seeker, seeking pain medication for medicinal purposes. You know what I mean?
But that's part of the stigma of being
Non-medicinal
a
purposes.
person of
Yeah.
color. Like,
Yeah.
not only
No,
do
no,
you
no.
guys have a higher pain tolerance, but you guys are also more likely to be drug addicts. And so I don't want to
Where's
potentially
my butter knife?
add to
Feed
your
into that.
habit,
Yeah.
right? But with what Kempha brought up in terms of having a high pain tolerance, like I experienced that firsthand almost my entire military career, but more so when I was giving birth to my second son. I did it completely naturally. I didn't have any drugs, no epidural, no nothing. And I remember after I delivered him perfectly happy, healthy, the doctor came in literally as he was coming out, like he almost hit the floor. Um, and the doctor comes in and almost, I delivered my son. Maybe about 5 minutes later, the doctor is digging around down there trying to pull out my placenta. And I'm like, can we wait? Like, can I have some time with my son? Can we just pause for a second? That thing will come out by itself naturally. Like, you don't have to go rooting around for it. And he was just like, no, I just want to hurry up and get this over and done with. And he's literally, I'm not on any pain medication whatsoever. And he is yanking at my placenta, trying to pull it out of my body. And my partner is next to me with this crazy look on his face because he has no clue what to do. And the nurse is next to him with this crazy look on her face. And the doula is behind them. Not one of them said anything. I was screaming at the top of my lungs. And the nurse was like, sir, she doesn't have any pain medication on board. And he's like, it's okay. We're almost done. I'm literally screaming. No one stopped him. No, nothing. I ended up having to go into surgery because he shredded up my placenta so much that they didn't know what was left in there. But I was just like, how can this happen to a human being? Like, you are fully aware that this body part that you're pulling on is attached to my body. You're fully aware that I don't have any medication. I'm screaming at the top of my lungs, and this is acceptable to everybody that's in the room right now. Like, this is acceptable medical care. It was completely mind-blowing for me and traumatizing. But it was just like, and when it was all said and done, I didn't even get to see my son until the next day because I was in surgery and then recovering from surgery. And I was just like, this beautiful natural birthing experience turned into a nightmare because this white man thought that I had super pain tolerance despite me screaming at the top of my lungs. It was just like, what part of your brain as a human being would say this is okay?
Yeah.
Like, that's the part for me that I just cannot, even to this day, wrap my mind around. Like, there were 2 other medical professionals in this room, and neither one of them, like, one of them did speak up and say, hey, reminder, she's not on, but neither one of them went to go get help or tried to stop. Nothing. Part of it is the power dynamic. He was a male doctor. They were both female nurse doula.
Yeah.
But you see the patient is in pain. Like, how do you not speak up?
And that is one of the like I said, it was like I was talking about earlier, that's one of those brainwashing behavior mentalities where even a person of color, we're gonna follow suit behind that. We're gonna, it's like you're superior, their title makes them more better than you, so therefore they know better, and so you can't call them out, you can't question them, you can't tell them what to do, and or at least suggest anything because you'll probably get reprimanded for it. And it's an ego trip, 100%. It's an ego trip, but yet it's everyone operates unfortunately in a fear status or like seniority or whatever. I'm sorry you went through that, but that's unfortunately that is one of those things where it needs to be better because I'm not gonna lie. I can't say right now if I would have said anything or even tried to do anything. I may have talked about it later on. I may have expressed my concerns to my superior later on. And if that was anything that was done about it, then maybe so. But it was, and even when you do those things, sometimes nothing even gets done.
Question. So did you report it afterwards? Did you report the doctor?
I didn't even know what options I had available. Like, me and my partner didn't talk about it. Just like I woke up the next day, and part of it was not remembering what had happened because I had to go through surgery afterwards. So that, the drugs and all that stuff, I was just focused on my child after that. And then by the time I did come back around to it and was like, oh, this thing is not normal. Maybe I should tell somebody. And they were like, oh, it's too late.
No, see, that's one thing I think we need to be educated upon is that you can fire your doctor or your nurse. If they mistreat you in any way, you have a voice to say, no, get away from me. Because we are so scared. We're not taught that we have rights. And I feel like that's very important.
That's it, no more.
Right. And that is a fantastic point because when in that moment, not once did it cross my mind to say, stop touching me, like, get away from me. Like, I'm screaming at the top of my lungs. I would assume that somebody would understand that this is not a welcome activity, but not once did it cross my mind to say, stop, we're done here. Like, I did not feel like I had the power in that situation to be able to do that.
I'm so sorry you went through that.
I don't know how to respond. Thank you. Um, I'm not sure how you respond to things like that, but yes.
I
But you
mean,
know, it's a learning experience, and hopefully, other people won't have to go through that because of this conversation.
Yeah.
like Kim said, a lot of people are not aware of their medical rights, and especially people of color, we're not really educated on a lot of things, whether it's being pulled over by the police, and it's like
Yeah.
knowing our no reading is fundamental, and knowing your rights, and knowing you have rights in the medical field to deny care from certain
Right.
people, to deny someone from being your care provider, or basically being taking part in your medical care. And Kim said it, and I didn't know that until I started working into the hospital, that you can say no to whoever is in the room. You can be like, get out, I don't want you here. And it was mind boggling to see. And like in your situation, you weren't aware of it. You're a very intelligent woman yourself, but no one takes the time to tell us that.
Mm-mm,
But
no.
people, non people of color are fully aware. They're given those options. They're and I'm assuming they are. I'm assuming that they are taught this at the point, or whatever, maybe an overly sense of entitlement or saying no. But
Right.
for us universally, it's toe that line, follow suit.
Yeah.
Do as they say. Don't ask
Put your head
questions.
down, keep
Don't talk
working.
back.
Yeah.
Keep your head down. Suck it up. Power through it. And that's what we continue to reinforce with us, because it's like you said, you had your own partner there, rather than him saying, "Hey, you hurt my lady. You hurt my lady." Chill out. Even him himself was just like, "What do I say?" Because at this point,
Yeah.
he's like, At this point, he's a doctor. How do I tell a doctor what to do? You know what I'm saying? How do I say, hey, get off my lady? Or be
Right.
like, nah, this ain't going down. And it's in
Right.
that mentality where we're not, we're I feel like we've been broken, and we became too docile as a people in the medical field, and as a people being pulled over by police as well. We've been too docile. We're not questioning, we're not educating ourselves to basically combat these kind of behaviors,
Mm.
where they assume, like, he came in there just full face hearted, like, oh, that's okay, it doesn't matter, yeah, we're almost done here. Like, where you going, bro? What's the rush, bro? Like,
But that's what it felt like. Like he was just trying to hurry up and be done with me so that he can go back to his nap or his crackers or whatever he was doing prior to coming in and catching my baby.
you know what I'm saying? And it's like, and it's one of those situations where that's just not okay. You know what I mean? I've seen nurses like literally not change a patient's dress room, talking about, oh, it's okay, we'll save it or leave it for day shift. I'm like, no, it's dirty. It needs to be clean. It's leaking blood. It's dried up blood. This is
Mm.
not okay. I'm not supposed to. I myself am not, like, I can, but I'm not supposed to change a dressing. I'm not supposed to change a wound, a wound bandage. And yet, the nurse I was working with at the time did not care. And I looked, and I was like, in my mind, I'm like, yo, if this was not a person of color, would you have said the same thing? Would you have even cared? Would you have even thought that? And I spoke to the patient. He says, man, it's been like that for 4 days. I was like, wow, nobody's changed your black dressing in 4 days. Leaking dried up blood. I'm like, I don't think that's supposed to be okay. It's
No.
supposed to be done.
Yeah, and then again, it brings it back to what Kifa said as well. Like, where's his family member to help advocate for him in that sense? Because they think they know they can get away with it. Nobody's checking on him. That's
Yeah,
terrible.
and it's true. But then also you got certain people that come in that are just family members. They don't know what to say. They just sit there and they be
Right.
quiet.
They take it.
They're not informed of a patient's bill of rights. They're not educated on that. They're not taught that. And it's like when you get into the medical field as a care professional, they make you go through all of these training. They make you aware that a patient has the rights, the patient's bill of rights, and things of that nature. And I didn't know any of that until I went to that training. I did not know. I wasn't aware. And I felt like if I was aware, the mistreatment my mother went through would have been different. You
Right.
know what I mean? She was a patient. She was a patient at a hospital, and for some reason, she fell and she had like a big chunk of her chin missing. And I was
While
like,
she was in the hospital.
"Yeah." When I tell you, it took everything in me not to barbecue slap everybody in that piece. My mom was like, "No,
Barbecue
no,
slap.
no, it's my fault. I didn't listen. I don't give a shit, yo. It don't matter, bro. And yo, I ain't gonna lie, that had me real tight, man. And I wasn't aware of it, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't know who to take out my aggression on in there, and it was just like, I can't get mad at you. You just telling me you coming on. I'm not sure if he was lying or not, but I can't really slap you because you just got here. So I'm all right. Who do I need to speak to right now? Like how y'all put? I come in and she's got a bandage on her face, right? And I go to look at the bandage, and it's like a chunk of that shit is coming off. I'm like, bro. I'm like,
No
really, really,
stitches, no nothing, just a
yeah, man. It was just like, all right, bet. You know what I'm saying? It was really heavy. Like, and my sister was telling me about my stepdad and how they made a mistake and gave him some medication or whatever. And it was like, you know what I'm saying? And like it was in the middle of the night and it was part of his meds or whatever. And whoever cared for him, they just took off. And
That
he
was the end of that.
like he pretty much died in the hospital. And it's like, and for
wow.
years, people of color don't want to go to the hospital because we know it's not a safe place for us. It's never been a safe place for us.
Okay.
For years, we've always avoided the hospital because it's never been a safe place for us. We're nothing but guinea pigs and experiments to them.
Okay. That goes
Wow.
back to the Tuskegee syphilis
All of that.
experimentation
You know what I'm
and like
saying?
all the way back. Yeah.
All of that. And then it's like when you come in there, it's awful. I had a coworker and I wasn't present for it, but she was telling me about it. She was a white girl. She was telling me about how a GSW, that's a gunshot victim, comes into the hospital, right? And they putting the work on them and everything else, and they're quote unquote trying to save the patient or whatever, and they just leaving them bare naked, done. They call the code, and it's like the family could come in. She's like, the white girl, she's a tech. She was like, "You guys serious? Like, I'm not gonna clean them up and dress them up? No, you can just send the family in there." It's like no decency whatsoever.
Oh,
And she was mad, and she told me the story, and I was tight. I was like, "Oh hell, yo!" When I tell you I was tight, man.
That's
And
crazy.
it goes into that. It goes into that kind of thing where it's like these are people I work with, yo. These are people I'm thinking they cool people,
Wow.
but in actuality, while I'm upset at them, but that's their mentality, that's their training, that's their condition. The industry, while the medical field is a booming industry, it's still teaching people old primitive ways, and they're still look. It's just like the police force; they're still looking at us as not important, not valuable, but in their eyes, we're a test subject. In their eyes, we don't matter. Civility, care, empathy is out the window for some. And then even as a care provider and you try to assist and you're a person of color trying to assist somebody who's not a person of color, they still look at you like you're not good enough or you're not even worthy enough to even take care of their family, help their family because you're black.
right.
And they talk to you any kind of way. Like I've been in security, I've been a bouncer, I've worked in construction. I've been called the N-word more than in the hospital than I have in any other field I've ever been in my entire life.
Wow.
Any other field I've ever been in my entire life. I can count, but I lose count. There's not a day where I go into work, ain't somebody finna drop the N bomb on me. And it's usually by a person I'm taking care of.
I've heard a lot of horror stories from like people who work in nursing homes and are nurses,
No, seriously.
older white people. Yeah, they.
Yeah, seriously. Somebody had posted a meme, and it's real though. They were like, old white people with dementia, Alzheimer. They'll forget today's Tuesday, but they still won't. They'll never forget their racism. They'll still call you a
Mhm.
nigger to your face.
That's so sad.
You know what I mean? And
Man.
it's crazy though. But it's just like you here to take care of somebody, and they either gonna spit in your face, they're gonna try and kick you. And then some of them they know they shouldn't say things, they don't say it. And some of them just don't care, and they just go ahead into the violation aspect of it all.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's just one of those things where it's just like we are the most hated in the world, or the most covenant at the same point in time, but still the most hated. Even when we're doing good by them, we're still looked at as a threat. No matter how much good we do in this world, how much kindness we give in this world, in this country, period, we're still going to be in. We're still going to come. We're still going to encounter those, even for a split second. they're gonna think you let your guard down and you think you're okay with them, and then they're just like, well, you're not like those people. What do you mean those people? What are you saying to me? Oh, well, you're black, but you're not that kind of black. What does that
What is
mean?
that kind of black? What is that?
You know what I'm saying? And it's just like, all right, all
Mm,
right, you know what I mean? And it's just like not just the medical field, but just in anything in general, yo.
Yeah.
It's very disappointing, it's very disheartening, and it's just very frustrating at times.
yeah.
Because it's like day in and day out, you hear these, and it's like plenty of people. I know you hear, and I'm pretty sure we're not the only ones here that have stories. We're not the only ones that have family members or friends that have been in these kind of situations, and they think we're all just making it up. But if you throw a stone in any direction, you're gonna find a person of color with the same exact experience, with telling you
Yeah.
that hey, they have not been treated well because of their complexion. We're not
That's
making
like
it.
Serena Williams in 2017. I think she was probably the biggest person of color recently that I can think of to have experienced that. Like she went to give birth to her first daughter. She had a history of having blood clots in her lungs. So it's in her medical records. You're aware that she has a history of blood clots. So you should be, I would think, you should be like looking out for this because blood clots happen after giving birth as well.
Okay.
And she went in, had a routine delivery. Afterwards, she was feeling out of sorts. Like she knew what her symptoms were previously, and so she was already aware of it. After she had the baby, she was like, "I need y'all to put me on heparin drip to make sure I don't have a blood clot." And they're like, "Oh, well, you just had a C-section, so we're not sure about that." The medical staff should have been mindful of her history. They should have taken her seriously. Not only is she has a history, she's a celebrity. Like there's all these things.
Yeah.
The underlying is she's a person of color and she slipped through the cracks.
Yeah.
She recognized the signs. She immediately told the medical people, "Hey, I'm concerned this is happening." She kept on telling them. She said in an Elle interview, Elle magazine interview, that she went to the nurse and said that she needed a CAT scan of her lungs. And the nurse literally was like, "No, I think all the medicine is just making you crazy. It's okay. Just go back and sit down."
Wow.
And thankfully she was persistent and kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And finally they did the CAT scan, and lo and behold, there was a blood clot in her lungs. But it's like, if
I don't
she
care how rich
hadn't
I
have
was,
pushed,
I would have sued them.
right?
It's like it's to the point where you can't even advocate for your own health at this point.
No,
No, you
you know
can't. You
more
really
about my
can't.
health than I do.
You
That's
can,
what the
but
nurse
it's
told
like,
her.
You know what I'm saying? And but that's the
like,
thing.
why do we have to fight so hard to advocate for our own health? Like, as a medical professional, you know, like you said, like they should have known that it's in her chart. It's a medical history situation, and then she's already telling you, "Hey, this is how I'm feeling. This is what I think I need."
Right.
Oh no, it's okay. The
And
meds that we gave
I've
you,
seen that. I've seen that
sick.
been
Yeah.
done.
It's
I've
sick.
seen that been done. Where somebody tells you their own history and you're just shushing them away, or you just kindly trying to discredit them from whatever condition they got.
Right.
Now, once again, and the sad part is, I've seen people of color do the same exact thing. But again, it's that mental condition.
Right.
Because they
You
gonna
got to treat
they
as
they
medical.
teach you this behavior. They teach you this behavior in school while you're walking around training, following this different nurses. They're teaching you their bad behaviors. They're teaching you.
Modeling it. Yeah.
They're modeling it. So when you get into it, now don't get me wrong, you're gonna come across some shiesty looking patients. Don't get me twisted. You're gonna come across them. But at the end of the day,
Can't treat
non-biased.
everybody.
You gotta be non-biased 100%, 24/7.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, there's a lot of cases where people like Serena Williams, yo, if she didn't kept pressing, they would have sent that lady home. She probably would have
wouldn't have
died.
been here today. Yeah.
She would have died in her sleep. She would have died. She would have literally died in her sleep. And they would have been like, oh my God, we didn't know. Oh my God. Then what's the point of having medical records?
Yeah. That's the biggest, like,
What's the point of asking questions? What's the point of me telling you my information,
crazy.
you marking down these notes, only for you to discredit my issues, only for you to discredit how I'm feeling and what's going on? You know what I mean? It's baffling to me that this continues to happen and nobody does anything about it. Nobody
Evie, did
does
you have
anything.
anything else you want to tag on to that?
I mean, it's just horrific. Like, it frustrates me, honestly, just even discussing it, because it's like, this is why, like, me personally, this is why I would never, like, let a doctor tell me anything. Like, oh, okay,
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
I just no, I can't take your word for it. I can't really go visit people in hospitals because I'm that person. I'm gonna snap. Somebody's gonna get. They're gonna hear from what I gotta say. If somebody's not being treated the way that they're supposed to be treated, if you're not doing the job, you gotta treat everybody as if it's somebody that you care about. Like it's just human decency. People just don't have
And
human decency.
and what I've noticed is that while the field is very saturated with very saturated with bad people, there is some good people in there. But the sad part is that I tell anybody, man, if you're getting into that medical field, don't do it for that check. Do it because you care for
Yeah, you
somebody.
gotta, yeah.
Right.
Don't let that money be the primary reason why you behind here trying to take care of people. You got to do it because you love
To
Yeah.
caring
take
for
care of
people.
people.
You want to make a difference in people's life. Don't be up in here trying to, this nurse ratchet and there's doctor deaths out there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's some nurses that are basically, not giving a crap, man. They've been there for years, and it's like every so often they kill a patient. Oh, I forgot I gave them the wrong meds.
And it's just like, it's like nothing. Like you just
You
kill
just
somebody.
you forgot. All
Mm-hmm.
right.
You're
All
basically a
right.
murderer at
You know,
this point, and
yo,
you're
there's
getting away
certain,
with it. Like it's sick.
there was people I refused to work with. And I was just like, nah, I'm not gonna go down with you. Nope, I need a different person to work with her. It's not gonna be me. No, I'm not doing it. Not doing it.
No,
Because
no,
it's like at the end of the day, I'm not finna go down with you, bro. Because man, there's plenty of time I was like, I would tell people, yo, go tell your husband or your son or your boyfriend to come see me in a parking lot, bro. Because you're not finna try them like that, man. I don't care. You're not finna try them like that. You don't like me, I don't like you, cool, whatever. But while we here together, you're not finna try this patient like that. I don't care. I ain't get written up for it. But at the end of the day, it was like, we understand you're very passionate. These are frustrating times. People are just working too many hours. Then tell them stop working.
Right. That's not an excuse.
You feel me, bro?
especially during COVID. That was
Yeah.
Yo,
crazy.
yo, COVID was like the most disrespectful time ever,
Oh,
man.
What
please.
were
Because
you
it
gonna
was
say,
like,
Kimpa?
No, go ahead, Mike.
nah, she right though. COVID was. I'm gonna say this real quick though. COVID was the most disrespectful time. Like Evie said, you needed a patient, you needed a family member advocate. Just like Kimpa said, you needed a
Mm.
family member advocate. When COVID hit, all that stopped quick,
Oh, that's
quick.
because they couldn't though. Like that
Yeah,
there
they
there
shut
was a
down.
point where we were
No,
not
but
able to see their family members.
yeah, and there was a lot of people slipping through the cracks. I saw a video of a
Yeah.
family member. They told the family that the mother died, and they got her in a body bag, but you could see her breathing still. It was
That's
in New York.
terrifying.
It was in New York. They was doing that.
Ugh.
A family member broke through, went to the back because they wanted to go see their grandma and their mother. Yo, they got the lady on camera, bro. They opened the back. She struggling to breathe, but they called her dead, and that's what they told the family. And the family was like, "Nah." It's like, bro,
Oh my
this is
gosh.
real. This takes place. Like I said, I wasn't present for most of the. I was never present for a situation like that. But I ain't gonna lie, chitty chitty bang bang. Off rip,
That's
bro.
like
Chitty chitty
that's
bang bang. I ain't even
very
playing. Like on
disheartening.
some real shit, yo. I wouldn't, nah, B.
That's
Nah,
crazy.
nah. I feel like the Lord did good taking my mother a little bit sooner than she did. God rest her soul. Cause bruh, that had been a COVID situation. They did that to my mama, bruh. Everybody gonna pay. Everybody gonna
Yeah.
pay.
They'll
That
be
Yeah.
whole
right behind
floor
you.
gonna get waxed. I ain't, nah, bruh. Nah, you don't. Like the human decency factor does slip out of people's minds.
Yeah. They
But
And
don't.
that's
They,
I feel like go ahead.
oh no, no, you can go ahead. Go ahead.
no, what I was
I
gonna say is I'm gonna say what I was gonna say is also they often make it very difficult for the medical professionals to also, especially the nurses, where they're giving them 4 or 5 patients at a time, six
right.
Mhm.
patients at a time. You're not giving anybody adequate care with that no with those numbers. You're not.
Right.
You're not.
And
It's boom, boom,
that's what
boom,
I was
boom,
gonna
boom.
say.
I
Yeah,
was, yeah.
there's no emphasis on care. It's like efficiency. Let's just
Yeah.
hurry up. Let's go as quickly as we can so we can get to the next one and get all the money we can,
Yeah.
regardless of the conditions of the situation. Like it's all about the money grab.
And one like subtopic I was thinking of is like because with nurses mainly, but it's like a lot of the times the malpractice is based off the doctor, but like you have nurses, because that you experience that are doing the practice on the patients, and it's just like, is it what's what is the root of the problem? Is it because you're not getting paid enough? Is it because you're working too many hours? Are you
Mm.
overwhelmed? Or is it just that you just don't want to do this job and you're just looking for a paycheck? Because like these are people's lives. You have to take care of them. If that's not what you want to do, if you're
Right.
overwhelmed, say something. Do like, but don't take care of somebody if that's not your mindset
And I
that you really
see,
want
Right.
to do.
Mm.
Because
I seen people come in there. They ain't there for that check, boy. They do
Mm-hmm.
the bare minimum. I'm like, yo, you ain't a server. You ain't at Universal theme parks. You ain't at
Mm-hmm.
Disney. You're in the effing medical field, bro. If that's how you feel, you're entitled to feel that way. Just check out and go home, bro. You
Mm-hmm.
ain't got to come up in here today. And I ain't gonna lie, I left that because I was like, my care, my attentive, my compassion, it slipped away. While the money's good, I can't stay there and take money from you all because it's the money, bro. It should that this field, the medical field, is not one that should be made of money. It should be made of passion, of
Right.
compassion and care and
Right.
thoughtfulness, bro. You shouldn't be out here trying to do it because you're trying to get a check, bro. That's not okay.
There
And
are
That
also
reminds me.
some
Oh, go ahead.
nurses. Sorry, there's also some nurses who are been there for like 30, 35 years, but they become immune
Yeah,
mhm.
to
compassion
They get on
AI,
fatigue. Yeah.
autopilot
and
type of thing.
they no
Mm-hmm.
longer care. They just want to go home and then just get paid.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Do the
Check the
shift.
box, come and go.
Yep.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, the compassion part of the conversation reminds me of another incident I had when I was pregnant with my first son. And you do the routine ultrasounds, and I was part of this study or whatever, and they were doing extra ultrasounds for me. So I came in between my routine ultrasounds for another ultrasound. And on the ultrasound, they were measuring like the space in the back of my child's head or whatever. And the results came back. This is the same day thing. It's not like I went home and got results later. Right after I had my ultrasound, they called me into this big conference room, and it was a doctor and I guess a doctor in training or a nurse, I don't know. And the doctor has this clipboard in her hand, and she is so like cold and sterile. This room is cold and sterile, and she's just like, "Oh, the measurements on your child's thing came back abnormal, and we think your child might have Down syndrome or autism, so you should just abort him." Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay. No, this is how we're gonna have this conversation. There's no other options, just abortion, and you want me to co-sign on it right now? Like I don't get to go home and think about. That was literally all her energy. She was just like, "Yeah, so you need to make a decision. Just let us know what you want to do. If you want to get the abortion, we can do it right now. And I was just like, "What?
And from my that's terrible. And from my understanding, like off
Just
topic a
one
little bit.
measurement. One measurement."
What, that's crazy.
And I was just like, and I was there by myself. My partner was military, so he was gone in training. I was military, so I was in a whole nother state than my family. And thankfully, I was so like flabbergasted that I was like, I need to go call my mom. Like, I don't know what else. I need to go call my mom. And so she was like, okay, take all the time you need. But, we should probably do this sooner than later because the more you wait, the more developed the baby's going to. And I was just like, wow. And at this point, I was like 13 weeks, I think. Somewhere around there. It was in the teens. And thankfully, I called my mom, and my mom was like, nah, don't do that craziness. Don't do that foolishness. But if I hadn't have had the sense to call my mom, I would have left the hospital without my child and would have been all kinds of messed up. And now my child is perfectly fine. I think he's probably a genius if he actually applied himself. No mental health disabilities, no nothing. Perfectly normal child that I would have aborted if I would have listened to this
Lady off
lady.
that crazy measurement. Ugh, that's sick.
So I don't go to the doctors very often unless it's like life or death.
Yeah. And even then, you gotta take what they say with the
Yeah,
grain of salt because
even then.
bruh, it's opinions, second opinions, secondary opinions. When you're a person of color, it is definitely it's very it's again, I keep using this word, it's very disheartening because
Yeah,
you're not going 100% get the full benefit of the treatment that you deserve.
yeah,
While there's some people out there that do care, you run into a lot more that's just in it for a paycheck, man.
yeah.
In it for that
yeah,
title, in it for that ego, and
yeah.
they don't care. I've seen doctors give family members the coldest. I mean, the coldest response to, yeah, we need to let them go. Like, and they didn't even. I'm
No
saying it in the
compassion.
nicest.
Like,
I'm saying it in the nicest. I'm saying it in the semi worst, nicest way possible. But I've seen some doctors tell them, "Yo, I'm like, yeah, they're gonna die, so you should go ahead and cut the plug on them." I'm like, I understand, but I think you could have delivered that a little different. But once
or get
again,
somebody else to deliver it.
you feel me?
Maybe that's
That's
just
the
not your
thing,
strong
though.
suit.
That's just not for you. Yeah.
That's the thing, though. It's like they go to school and they teach them how to be doctors. Not and they teach them how to be doctors, and they teach them how to somewhat be medical professional.
Barely.
But
Barely.
I think in the medical professional handbook and guidelines, there is no teaching on compassion. It's either you're
No.
born with it or you're not, because it's something
The
you can be
bedside
taught,
manner has
and it's
the
something you can't
bedside
be.
manner book has gotten thrown out the window.
Yeah.
Yeah, the bedside manner, there is no book on that. There's not a whole course on bedside manner. There's not a whole thing. And that's why the hospitals have basically, like, doctors are contracted now and they get reviewed. And the whole technology system now is like all about reviews. So if you get too many bad reviews, the hospital lets you go, bro. You can continue your practice all you want, but if people going if you keep getting negative reviews, that doctorship don't mean jack, bro.
That part.
That's interesting.
That's one of the excellent parts about the whole new age medical system of it all is that
People
people can
reviews.
rate their professional their medical
Yeah.
provider, doctor, and stuff like that. You can see their reviews,
Right.
and everyone's gonna have bad experiences. Everyone and someone's gonna have good experiences. Be mindful to that number and be mindful what color of experiences are there that are getting this negative experience, because then that
Right.
when it tells you something, because it's like medical cases are going off rampant and crazy, and if they apply the same mentality to police brutality, we see
Mm,
probably a lot less of them, but they go from one state, one town to the next one over, so there ain't nothing really blocking
right.
them. So that's the thing. It's like even people with degrees and stuff like that lose their compassion
Yep.
because it's just
People are just sickos. That like just the I recently saw an article about the guy who the anesthesiologist who got released from prison because he was forcing the women to give him oral while they were
Oh
unconscious.
yeah. Yeah. Mike sent me
Like
that. Mm-hmm.
these
somebody sent me that and I saw it. And I was just like, bruh, they gave that man. I think
people,
a year. They gave that man a year in prison. I'm sorry,
Just
no sir,
no.
no sir.
like, but
Ages
why?
25 to 55. He was doing this too.
Ugh, ugh.
Ages
It's like
25 to
sick.
55. Over 73 patients. I was like, bruh.
And it's
But
just
that
like,
slap in the face, like,
Yo, one of the people, the video I saw, right? It was a person of color. He did that shit too, and I was like,
yep.
bruh.
And you know what? Probably majority of them were women of
or older
color.
people, because
Mhm.
nobody would believe them.
Mm.
You know
Yeah,
what I'm
that's just
saying?
crazy.
Talking about, oh, it was a bad anesthesia. It was a bad dream. It was a bad dream,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
bro. I'm like, yo, the fact that he's still walking, he's able to walk. Somebody ain't do it right, bro. I ain't gonna lie. Like,
So,
uh,
as we're winding down for this episode, what steps do you feel like healthcare institutions, or are there any steps that healthcare institutions can take to address racial disparities in healthcare outcomes? Like, how do we fix this? Is this fixable?
I believe it's very fixable, and it can be done by re-educating people and by adding a separate course in human compassion and human decency.
Compassion. That's what it. That's what
Compassion
it
You
course.
boils
can't,
Okay.
down
you can't, you can't, you don't nobody go any further until you get an A plus, period. We ain't doing B's, we ain't doing C's, we ain't doing D's. If you need an A plus, better.
to. It's either 100 or
You
nothing.
you can't proceed to any other course in this whole medical doctorate, nursing, joint, whatever. Medical
Until
human
you
being.
take a compassion course. Okay.
Yes.
Kintha, what
I
about you?
feel like hospitals and nursing homes and doctor's office need to make sure that they listen to the patients when they complain about
Mm-hmm.
any type of mistreatment,
Mm-hmm.
because we're the ones who actually are, being taken care of, and we are aware of what's happening
Right.
behind closed doors. So they really need to sit down and listen and take advice from us, like the patients, instead of just going about, oh, like this doctor is so great, he has all of these degrees. It's not all about that.
Right.
That's my
That
piece.
is so true. Yeah, just getting off your high horse and just checking back in with humanity. Like, this is a human being here. They have feelings. They're fully aware of what's going on within their body for the most part. Um, I agree with you on that. What about you, Evie?
Well, yeah, same thing as Kivo mentioned, but also like I hope it can get better. I hope people just show a lot more human compassion because that's what it all boils down to. Um, everybody's not the same. Everybody's body's not the same, especially the POC. Um, but we just got to show a little bit more love to the next person. You got to treat them like as if they're your family member, but hopefully that's something that can get fixed. I would hope so, but till then, advocate for your own health.
Right. And I'll have to piggyback on that advocating for yourself. I feel like part of the education is not just on the medical professional, but also on us as consumers, like being able to say, this is what you can and cannot do. These are the rights that you have, like Mike was talking about, Mike and him were talking about earlier, the rights of patients, being able to say, no, don't touch my body. This isn't acceptable. But also being able to, like Kimber was saying, listening to the patient, but the patient should also be aware of, this is what's going on within me. This is my history. This is, so us being informed consumers so that we can advocate for ourselves, not just showing up and being like, something's wrong with me, fix it. Like,
Yeah.
we have to be able to do our part as medical consumers, for lack of a better way of putting it. But yeah, I completely agree with everything everybody
Yeah,
was
I
saying.
concur. I concur what
Compassion.
you're saying though too. Is definitely educating and knowing more once you step into that office. Educating and
Right.
knowing more once you go to the ER and you get checked in or you admitted.
Right.
Understanding, pay attention to that paperwork that they give you. Read that stuff finally. Read all of that information. Be aware who cares about you. Pay attention to the nurses. Pay attention to the medical staff, the CNAs and everything else. Watch their behavior. Watch how you are being treated. Watch how they're treating your
Right.
family. Because
Right.
people are people, and let's not forget, people get burnt out. And so
Yeah.
with that, people's lack of compassion and love for doing the thing is completely different. And it's not something, again, while there's no excuse for it, but you know, it's a sad world we live in. Unfortunately, we're not machines.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
not perfect. Error is unavoidable when you're a human being. So unfortunately, when it comes to a family member in the care group, in the medical field, errors are going to happen. While they strive not to make it happen, they're human beings.
Right. So our job is to just show up and to advocate for one another. If you know somebody who's going into the hospital, needs some medical care, be a supportive advocate, because you never know.
That part, very important.
But thank you both, Kimpa and Evie, for showing up and leaning in with us. That brings us to the end of this episode. And remember, as always, our goal is not to dictate conclusions, but to encourage self-reflection and open, honest dialogue to help us to better understand the world around us and ourselves. So with that being said, we invite you guys to keep the conversation going. We'd love to see your thoughts and your stories and your perspectives in the comments section. Or if you want to come on and continue this conversation, we'd love for you to send us a direct message and we can set up a time for you. If you have any suggestions for our future episode topics or improvements, please don't hesitate to let us know. We appreciate your feedback and are committed to making this podcast better with every episode. So with that being said, thank you for joining us. Thank you for leaning in with us. And until next time, bye.
Bye. Thank you for coming on. Please come again.